Hi, this is Luke from Stuff Dissected here, and let me talk to you about remakes. They are the hot new trend in video games right now, where they take an old classic game from your childhood and add a new lick of paint to it, with new visuals, music, and new additions as well. It's not exactly a new thing, but ever since Sony remade the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, I've seen a lot of old classics being given the remake or HD remaster treatment for the new generation of gamers or people who want to revisit their old favourites. It's like going to a place you visited in your childhood and see that they redecorated it. Now it got me thinking, what games do I think should be given the remake treatment? What games do I think need an upgrade to make them look more grander with new graphics, music and other improvements? Well, I'll give you my personal top 7 games I would like to see remade. These are my own personal choices and they are hypothetical, so don't get too overexcited and expect them to be developed anytime soon. But there is such a thing as wishful thinking, so it might happen when you least expect it. Or within 100 years' time. Number 7. Now, I'm a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda. I view this series as a love letter to fairy tale adventures and 80s fantasy movies, exploring dark dungeons and battling the forces of Ganon to rescue the fair Princess Zelda. A number of games have been remade like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask for the 3DS, which I both enjoyed, and Wind Waker and Twilight Princess have been given the HD treatment. Side note Nintendo, give Mario Sunshine the Wind Waker HD treatment, it would look amazing! Also, Link's Awakening not only had a colour upgrade for the Game Boy Color, it also had a remake for the Switch. It looks so beautiful, it's like something out of Noddy! But if there is one Zelda game I want to see remade, it would be the one that started it all, The Legend of Zelda for the NES. I could see it remade in the same style as A Link Between Worlds or the Link's Awakening remake. When you go into your first cave to meet the old man who gives you the wooden sword, it's just a black room with torches. Imagine it being an actual cave with paintings on the wall illuminated by torches, and you see the old man's bed and furniture in the background. Or when you enter a dungeon, it's all dimly lit by old torches and there's an eerie fog everywhere, not sure what is lurking in the dark. Also, let's talk about that map. Useful, isn't it? It did get the SNES remake treatment with BS Legend of Zelda for the Satellaview system, but having this get a 3D visual makeover with orchestral music playing over that iconic waterfall, it would be pretty amazing to see. You could throw in a Dungeon Maker as well. Dungeon 3 might need a slight makeover though. Yes, I know it's based on the Manji symbol. Number 6. Who here remembers the Virtual Boy? Or at least played one? Yes, this was Nintendo's attempt to take us into the world of virtual reality! With a headset that was difficult to use, and black and red visuals that a bit of an eyesore with eye-popping 3D, which probably did make people's eyes pop out, literally, it was a massive failure and it only had 14 odd games. But there is one out of these eye-gouging games that was actually decent. Wario Land. I really enjoyed the Wario Land games, and these days Wario seems to care more about his minigame empire than hunting for treasure. There was Wario Land for the Wii, but it's high time he gets back to his platforming roots. Wario Land for the Virtual Boy was pretty innovative, with visuals similar to Wario Land for the Game Boy, and you can have Wario go into the background. This would have been perfect for the 3DS. I think the closest to this kind of mechanic would be Donkey Kong Country Returns for the 3DS. Here's hoping that Wario picks up his adventuring hat again and gives us a new Wario Land, or at least a revisit to one of his old games. Number 5. Number 5. Number 5. Really? Number 5. A lot of gaming platforming mascots have been given a visual upgrade these days. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Bubsy? There is one gaming platformer I would love to see get a new visual upgrade, which is Banjo Kazooie and its sequel Banjo-tooie. Ever since Rare was bought by Microsoft, they don't seem to know what to do with the Banjo Kazooie franchise. It did come back for the 360, as a vehicle building game, but we yearn to see the Bear and Bird duo go back to collectathon platforming, fly around, collect jiggies, and turn into a pumpkin to explore a toilet. Then in 2019 we had a surprise. Banjo Kazooie made a return to Nintendo platforms as a playable fighter DLC for Smash Bros. Ultimate. Seeing an upgraded spiral mountain with a new rendition of the theme by Grant Kirkhope brought a tear to my eye, and Banjo and Kazooie looked just like how they looked in the old BK promo illustrations, not all cubey like something out of a Dire Straits music video. Even the other characters look amazing with new visuals. It did give speculation that Microsoft might remake the games, but there have been no word on it. Yet. But hopefully with enough demand, we might one day see Banjo and Kazooie explore Spiral Mountain, Grunty's Lair, and the Isle of Hags once more. Also, side note, despite the censoring, I rather enjoyed the Conker's Bad Fur Day remake on the original Xbox. Conker looked really fluffy and cute there. Number 4. With the remake of Link's Awakening from the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, as well as the Metroid 2 remake for the 3DS, I could see other Game Boy classics being remade. One I could think of is Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge. Castlevania is another one of my favourite video game franchises, where you play as a badass vampire hunter whipping your way through a castle full of monsters to take on Count Dracula. In Belmont's Revenge, you play as Christopher Belmont, who has to travel through various castles before confronting his son, his son, who was brainwashed by Dracula. What stood out from this game was the epic soundtrack, with banging chiptune themes. You wonder how the Game Boy was capable of producing these sounds without catching fire. Castlevania The Adventure was remade for the Wii's WiiWare service, which you can't get anymore, sadly. So if Konami went back to making quality games again, I could see them remaking this classic for a new audience. Due to programming limitations, they had to replace the staircases with ropes, so they could bring back the stairs and maybe a new castle or two for Chris to explore. If you want to check out this game, you can get it on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, or track down the original Game Boy cartridge or its Game Boy Color upgrade on the Konami Game Boy Collection Volume 4. Number 3. Now, I noticed that a lot of PS1 classics have been remade these days. Crash, Spyro, Medieval, Final Fantasy VII, and in a way Resident Evil, which was popular on the PS1. But there's one series that was well known on the PS1 that I would like to see be remade, which are the classic Tomb Raider games. Sure, the first one was remade as an anniversary title, but what about the other ones like 2, 3, The Last Revelation, and Chronicles? Tomb Raider gave us the rise of British female treasure hunter Lara Croft, who was pretty much an icon in the late 90s and early 2000s. She got rebooted in a new trilogy, but it would be interesting to see her go back to a classic look for a game or two. I suppose if only one of the remaining 4 would be remade, I would probably go for Tomb Raider 2, otherwise known as the Dagger of Zion, along with the Golden Mask expansion. I remember the fond memories of speedboating through the rivers of Venice, running along the Great Wall of China, and shooting tigers like her forefathers during the days of the British Empire. And who could forget exploring the grounds of Croft Manor and locking the butler in cold storage? If you revisit these games today, they haven't aged too well in my opinion and could do with a new lick of paint. It would be nice to see classic Lara talk and move instead of moving a clenched fist up and down without moving her lips. And maybe better controls instead of the tank controls we had, where one wrong move makes Lara scream and break her legs because she slipped and fell down the stairs. Number 2. Usually, classic games get remade because the originals may have aged badly and want to give it a new lease of life for the new console generation, or to have modern gamers experience their childhood heroes in a new and improved way. But what about remaking a game because the original game sucked, like tight deadlines, rushed development, and incompetent companies? What if they had another chance to develop the game again, but with reworked visuals, mechanics, fixed bugs, and loading times? Now, I know this will never happen, but what if Sega had a chance to remake Sonic 06? It was known to be the worst Sonic game of all time, where they tried to make a Sonic game for the HD generation, but they had to rush it for the PS3 release and they had to cut the team in half, as they couldn't develop a Wii port. But Nintendo demanded a Sonic game, which is how Sonic and the Secret Rings came about. The original game had potential, and it had a lot of cliches and mechanics thrown in, and it ended up as a huge mess, with a lot of bugs and very long load times, as well as a clashing art style that made it look like Sonic wandered into a Final Fantasy game. The music was great though. What if Sega and Sonic Team did the game again from the ground up, with fixed bugs and shorter load times? A reworked story that didn't have Elise kidnapped every 2 seconds, and visuals where the humans looked more like the ones from Sonic Unleashed and Eggman looked more like his usual self. Also, it needs a new name, like, I don't know, Sonic Flames of Solaris or something. In a way, we did get a remake of sorts in Sonic Generations, where we had 2 remade versions of Crisis City and a completely new version of the Silver boss fight, where you fight him in the future as he throws stuff at you. If that version was in the original game instead of the fight where he stun locks you and throws you into tables and chairs as he says, "It's no use," it might be a bit of an improvement. I know the game got its fans, and I respect that. I personally like Sonic 4 and Sonic Lost World despite its flaws, and I did get some enjoyment out of those games. Also, I prefer the American soundtrack of Sonic CD over the Japanese soundtrack. Fight me. I discovered that there is a fan remake of Sonic 06 that has demos of various stages and might be worth checking out. Number 1.
Hey.
Out of all the games I would like to see remade, this one I never really considered until recently. With all these classic platformers like Crash and Spyro getting remade, there's a 3D platformer I would like to see remade, which is Bugs Bunny Lost in Time. It was pretty much Crash-free warped with Looney Tunes characters, as they involve you going to different time periods and tangle with knights, pirates and dinosaurs. At the time when I first played it on the PC back in 2000 as a 13-year-old, I considered it the best Looney Tunes game I ever played, so I would love to see it get the remake treatment. Maybe have the cutscenes resemble the original cartoon, or have it all cel-shaded. They could also have it as a collection along with a remake of Time Busters, which had Taz included. So that's my personal list. So let me know what classic games would you like to see remade. It could be any game you want. And maybe like, comment and subscribe to my channel. I just wanted to make this video to pass the time during lockdown, and I might make more in the future. This is Luke the Fox, and take care during this crisis. Cheerio!